Hello everyone, it's Mr. B and today we are going to be going over the basics of Onshape. So I hope everyone has gone to this point where we have all logged in and we've created our first file and we could see sort of this basic outline of what is available to us. So the first thing we notice is we got this big toolbar that has all these tools available to us. Eventually we will go through all of them, but we will be starting with how to create a sketch today and how just to use the basic extrude tool because this is primarily what we're going to be using when we are within Onshape. And another big thing that we will be using is our mouse. If you push the middle mouse wheel in and you can rotate around, or you can use the different orientations that are available to us. So right now we're looking at the top, or if we zoom out, you can see that there's these three planes. So we got the front, right, and top plane, sort of like our ice orthographic drawings. So when we get started on this, let's start on the top. So we can either just click on the plane and right click, create a new sketch, or we can hit the create a new sketch up here, and then it'll ask us what plane to use, and then we can just select it and it'll start one for us. So we're on the top plane. And the first thing to consider when we are making a sketch is we have all of these tools available to us. So we can create lines, rectangles, where we use different orientations of the rectangle, where we could go off the center or off the corners, circles, arcs, polygons, where we could create different sided shapes, splines, and then we also have all these mating tools, offsets, trim tool, fillet, and then these pattern tools as well. But for today, we're just going to be focused on creating a basic shape. So when we started drawing, you will have remembered that we had some fairly basic shapes that we were creating. So today we're going to be create something similar along that lines. So you can see I have a rectangle here and we have two lines that are black and one that is blue. And the reason they're all not blue right now is because I started off of this point right here, which is the origin, our 0, 0 location in this drawing. And to get these lines to be blue, to be black, which is what we want, which is considered fully defined, we have to give them measurements, which is used by this tool right here, this dimension tool. And we can use that just by clicking it and then clicking the face that we want. And we can see it's defining that line, this height right here. And we're going to say this is 4 inches. Oh, it doesn't like expressions, but we are in inches. So there's 4. So you can see it's now black, and that means it's fully defined. And now we can go about using our extrude tool. And when we use the extrude tool, it pops up. Since we were in the sketch, it automatically selects the drawing that we were using. But you can see we have 4 options within 3 options. So obviously we're just going to be going with solid. We want this to be a solid component. If we want it to be a surface where we're just pushing up, we can do that, but that's a bit more tricky. And then there's thin features where you're going a certain direction each way, but we'll just be doing solid because that's the most easy and direct one. But then we notice we have 4 options to use. So we have new, add, remove, and intersect. So new, obviously, it will generate whatever you tell it to. So this square, it will create a new square and that's it, end of story. And it'll create a part down in here. Now, if we were to also then draw a rectangle on top of this one, so if we do that quickly, so we create a new sketch, then we create a rectangle up top. We won't dimension this one or define it. And we use new again, you can see it creates part 2 down here. But that can be problematic for us because if we have all of our features as individual parts, then when we go to extrude it, when we go to export it, everything is going to be individual and not as one solid component. So that's not what we want. So in this case, we would choose add because we want to add material to our component. We don't want to make a new one. And we will only want to try to create new components within different part files and then combining them within the assembly. But if you just want to create all within one part file, you can. I wouldn't recommend it though. I would recommend using the purposely built assembly mode. So let's change this over to add, and you can see it removes that part from down in here. It's merging with scope part 1. And another fun part about this is if we have it with merge with all and then you have another floating component up here and this comes up and touches it, it will combine all of them into one component. But we'll leave that for a different time. So here's that shape. And now we have this pretty basic geometry, but we're going to make it a little more complex. We're going to go along with what we saw on one of our drawings, and I will walk through this shape. So from the top down, actually, let's edit this extrude tool because we can. So let's edit it. Actually, we just want to edit the sketch, not the extrude feature. So we are actually going to delete all this out, and we are going to create a line. So we're just going to follow the perimeter until we get to this line right here, because since we know it's 4 inches, we're going to go over 1 inch, cut back, cut over, through here, through here. And you'll see that we have some blue lines in here, but all these other ones are black. And the reason for that is when we hit the dimension tool, there's different relations on these. So these ones are already defined by following along the edge of this part, but we have to tell it how far we're going to cut in and how far over these are from the walls. So if we grab both of those walls, and you can see they're highlighted in orange, we can drop that down and write 1 inch. And the same for over here. And another way we could do that is just grabbing this line right here, and it'll also produce the same result. So if we say 1 inch, it'll be good. And then for here, this is 2 by default. We can set this down, but it won't do anything. You see it's grayed out. That means it's already defined. So we have to find out how to lock this down. And a good way to do that is honestly grabbing the line, and you can see it's going up and down. So we have to lock it in this way. So grab our dimension tool, and we'll say this is 2 inches. So you see everything's black now. Let's extrude this up. We're adding it in. We're merging it. Oh, you can see I've done something wrong. Let's figure out what I did wrong. Alright, well, let's figure out... Oh, well, it did it. It just gave me a warning for no reason, apparently. So now we can remove this portion because we don't want this here. We want this to... So if we just select this face and create a new sketch, there's a couple options we can actually go about. We can create a rectangle and then just draw in this and use the corners and it automatically locks in geometry. Or we can grab this and we can use this tool up, where is it? Use slash project and convert, which means when we select that face and we hit that, it'll automatically outline it for us and follow its profile, which was what we'll use. And then now we'll use the second function of the extrude tool, which is the remove function. So you can see it automatically defaulted to going into the part, and we'll change this from blind to through all, so we don't have to worry about setting a depth. We just know it's going through everything. There we go. And now let's add a second cut to our part. So let's rotate it over. Let's look at the side of it, and then we'll go right click, new sketch. And when we grab this, like we want to cut along with this face, but we don't know, we can't see it obviously. So if we use, I got out of that, so let's go into sketch, create a new sketch. Sorry, now if we go back to this, face and we want to put a projected image of it onto this face so we can see it and reference it, we can use this project and convert and it'll automatically place it onto the face. But we don't want to just blindly cut that. So let's highlight this and use another tool within the drawings, which is construction geometry. So it'll change all your lines into construction lines, which means when we go to cut it, it won't actually use any of these lines. We only have to worry about them as references to our main drawing. So there we go. Now you can see it's changed over to these center lines, which is just our construction geometry line. And now when we go to our line, when we want a nice slope, we can go from corner to corner, and now we can just close this off. And since we used reference geometry and we're going to corners, a known defined point, everything is black, and that means it's fully defined, which is good. And now we can go ahead and we can remove, and let's change this again from blind, which is just setting a depth and cutting that certain depth, to through all in this situation, which is what we want. And there we go. So now we have this shape going on, and it's pretty basic, but we don't need to be complex right now. So we got a slope, we got a defined face, we have our 4 extrudes. We could have done this in a little bit more efficiently, but we're practicing today. So this is what our final shape is going to be. And the nice part about Onshape is this is already saved. I could check that just by, oh, there's a way of checking, but I'm forgetting how to do that. I'll try to remember that in the next lesson. But so we have our final shape. Remember, we have our extrude tool, and there's different functions of it. There's the new parts, add, so adding on to our existing part, removing, and then intersection, which is a different function, which is a little bit more advanced, and we'll get into that later on. So until then, have a good day or have a good afternoon, and I will see everyone in class.